Right, I believe we are live. Aldia, can you check if you see us on there? All
We
right,
are
awesome.
live.
Yay, first part done. Awesome. Um, Welcome everyone, and thank you for being here tonight for the Art of Movie Making Film Festival webinar series. Before we begin, I want to add to the outpouring of love and appreciation for Rob and Michelle Reiner. Rob and his family have played an integral role in my interest in film and TV, and we are so grateful for their positive influence on the industry. And truly, may their kindness and talent in that they have influenced with others just live on. Um, for those of you who are new to us, it's to shine the light on the people who actually make film, TV, and games work behind the scenes. We are not a red carpet type of festival. We are weirdos and creatives who love to build and create, and we are looking to connect everyone through our webinars and our in-person events. Tonight's webinar is our final event for the year, and we are closing out by stepping into the realm of props and prosthetics.
Are not the red carpet.
If
Sorry.
someone could mute, okay, yeah, that works. So this session is dedicated to props and prosthetics, fabrication and practical effects, and we have this with us. We are focused on the both sides of the work, the craft and the materials, but also the aspects of career and industry, where is it going, and those sorts of things. So they will fill us in on all of that. So each one of them is going to talk for about 20 minutes, and then we will have whatever time we have left up till 7:30 for Q&A. This is our first time doing YouTube Live, so bear with us as we manage the comments and figure out how to go back and forth with those. But Aldia is our creative director. I'm Laura Thorne, our executive producer, and she'll be monitoring the questions. So please, you can add them throughout the event, but we'll save them towards the end for actually asking the guests. So for after this event, the TAMMFF is taking a short pause. We're looking for funding and partners to help us improve our in-person events and add to the current offerings that we have. So stay tuned for that. While we're pausing, we are still continuing with our webinars and meetups. So please keep paying attention. And we are looking forward to announcing the new categories that we'll have when we do open up for next year, and including best stunts choreography, and also safe sets, and a few others. So stay tuned for those details. And we just want to thank everybody who has helped the film festival in the past, currently, our volunteers, and everyone who has supported us through the last 4 years. And as we roll into 2026 in our 5th year, we're really excited about everything that we have ahead. So for tonight, we have 3 speakers. Ethan Anderson is a Chicago-based sculptor, animator, and fabricator whose work spans film, television, commercials, and large-scale installations. His career includes collaborations with major brands and global recognition for dynamic, boundary-pushing work. So we are grateful to have him. Then after Ethan, we will hear from Kelsey Bonetta, is a Denver-based filmmaker and IATSE Local 7 member with a decade of experience in special effects makeup and filmmaking. She's worked on some really awesome projects, so I'll leave it to her to tell you about those. And she brings a rare perspective that bridges product design, makeup artistry, color grading, and hands-on experience across independent and professional productions. Glad to have her as well. And last but not least, as they say, Josh Turi is a 3-time Emmy Award-winning makeup artist and prosthetic designer with more than 3 decades in the industry. From Saturday Night Live to Marvel, Broadway to major film and television productions, Josh's work has shaped some of the most iconic characters and worlds on screen and stage. So get ready to be dazzled. These are some great guests. And so with that, Ethan, take it away.
All right. Well, I'm Ethan Anderson, and I'm about to start screen sharing some images of what I got going on, just so you have a visual to go with the things I'm talking about. I do a whole lot of things, from stop motion animation to props to prosthetic to sculpture. So people always say that you should like find your niche so then you can really like focus on that and make that your career. But I don't know. My experience has been I've specialized in many different things, and then I've gotten many opportunities from having such a breadth of things that I'm able to do. And so that's just kind of how I've found work doing things that I love. And so hopefully that's exciting for people to hear because it was really annoying for me when I was starting when people would say like, "Oh, you shouldn't do everything you love. You should do only one thing." So it's kind of nice that I'm able to do everything right now, at least. But this is a stop motion short that I produced and animated and, directed. It's called A Guest from Elsewhere. And so it's a 9-minute stop motion short. And it's been doing festivals all over the world. And it's been very exciting to, get recognition for something that I've been like kind of solely in charge of rather than usually I'm on projects where I'm, a very small piece of a very big puzzle. But this is a very exciting project. And so there's all sorts of fabrication that went into the puppets that, made up the characters of this film. So there's face replacement technology that I implemented. And so the way that works is these are all 3D printed face sculpts that I did. And then, I'm also in charge of painting and doing everything with that. And so it's a one way of doing stop motion animation. There's many different ways from silicone faces to, static faces to replacement mouths. But this is one of them. And so this is what I did for the one of the main puppets on the short. And then this is the other main puppet on that short. And it's like a totally different technology with this one. This is all mechanical in the face um, animation rather than things being replaced. It's all things that can move within this one sculpt. And so all sorts of different types of techniques going on here, um, from, latex molding and um, there's like magnet controlled mandibles and different things like that. So then he has multiple different uh, types of movement that you can create. Once you have it fabricated, then the animation has more possibilities. And then, this is once they're, on screen, because something that, when I started out a couple years ago in the stop motion realm, at least I would make things that looked really good to my eye. And then once you got it under the camera, totally would fail. So it's really more important what it looks like under the camera than what it looks like when you're holding it in your hand. These are about 8 to 10 inch puppets. So that's the scale that I'm working at here. And with those, they're often ball and socket armatures underneath the silicone or the foam for the body sculpts. And so this is what that looks like, the skeleton to the characters. And then on the right here, I have just a maquette of a character. And so there's different steps you go through before you get to your finished product to figure out the functionality and then the aesthetic, what do you want it to look like. And then here are some other puppets that I've been working on recently. This is a dinosaur for a silly little, it's like a 1 minute animation that I've been working on. And so that's been fun because I usually am doing human animation. And so it's a fun challenge to do more animalistic types of things. And then sometimes I get to do more prosthetic-y, costumey stuff. And this is for this feature film that's like a drag Frankenstein short. And so it's like super low budget. Like we had like a week to make this like suit. And they wanted it to be really like rough and kitschy, and they wanted to see all the seams and really emphasize, the theatricality of it. And I have not seen it yet, but it was pretty fun to work on. So, and then when I'm not doing shorts or stuff for movies, I do a lot of fabrication or animation for little commercials or social media advertisements and things like that. And so here's a couple of things. I've, had cool brand opportunities, which is good because they often will come back for other opportunities in the future. So that's why it's nice working with like big brands that even though it's kind of scary because they have all the power. But this was a nice one. This was for March for Our Lives, and it was a really kind of a funny project where the concept was these it was like a satirical uh comedy short to promote March for Our Lives during the election cycle last year. And so what we did was we had to make all of these pull string dolls of Republican politicians. And so I wasn't in charge of any of the face sculpts, but I was in charge of the hair and the costuming and the animation for the short. And so we had to make like a line of like pull string dolls basically that then said, very upsetting things about gun laws in the country. Um, but that was a fun project to work on, and you know, it's great to make a whole lot of little suits and ties. Kraft mac and cheese. This is for a commercial. I don't have any pictures of what I actually worked on. These were the uh, like the mock-ups that they sent me when we were working on this commercial because technically my job title was production designer and animator on it, but everything I worked on didn't actually make the final cut of the commercial. And the commercial is like a shot and then like an AI animation that they added, which is pretty annoying, but it's okay because, I still got paid. So that's what really matters. But Kraft mac and cheese, it was like a pretty simple concept with like simple animation, which wasn't even really animation. It was mostly like in-camera movement, and then they like adjusted the frame rate to make it look like stop motion. But Kraft mac and cheese, everybody loves it. This was a really fun. This is one of my more favorite things that I got to do these past couple months was this um, collaboration with Spotify and Lady Gaga for the Halloween season. And so I was in charge of doing this time-lapse video and edit of me carving this Lady Gaga pumpkin for, all of their socials or wherever else they posted it. I don't really know. But uh, it's great to carve pumpkins and to be able to take that niche, which I'm about to get into more in depth, and put that into these larger brand things that I'm able to work in now. All right, because now this part's pretty important, and this is like how I started kind of. People are always wondering how do you like start getting opportunities before you have them? Where do they? And the answer is like who knows? Like they can come from anywhere. You have to grab whatever you can get. But like any strange opportunity you have, you should take it because it can lead you to where you want to go. And so I started before I was doing animation or props or fabrication for any commercials or movies or shorts. I was doing pumpkin carving on reality television. And so first of all, I made some pretty cool stuff. Um, but being on like this was just like seasonal reality competition shows. This one's called Outrageous Pumpkins, which I, absolutely adored, had a great production team. And just it's a 5 episode series, and I did 2 seasons of it. So I ended up having like 10 episodes. And each episode's like an hour. And so I ended up like being on TV a lot, talking about like myself and my art and things. And so this allowed me for a lot of people to see me, and then for me to meet a lot of people through that production team and guest judges and things like that who would come on. And so just making little connections from like any weird opportunity you can get ends up, you know, like I met there's a an SFX house here in Chicago called Kozar Studios, and Anthony Kozar is the head of that, and he was a guest judge on one episode of this pumpkin carving show. Who knew? He was called like last second, and then we connected, and then I ended up being able to meet him and be able to work in practical effects for big budget things. Like who knew that this opportunity can come from that opportunity, and so just anything can happen from anything. So here's some behind the scenes stuff of us on the pumpkin show. We ruined the cameras, but it was all in the name of good reality television. Here's some other pumpkin sculptures that I've done. This one I did with an artist named Anthony Pater, who's also an animator. And this is a really fun one. This is from an Atlantic giant pumpkin. So, the really big ones have a lot of carving that we're able to do on it. And this is another one. And so you can kind of see my animation influence when I was doing the pumpkin carvings as well. We were trying to create narratives and things like that. And I don't know, I find there's overlap of all of these weird things that I do and how I approach them all. So, and then something also that I think is important when you're working in this sort of industry is that it's very inconsistent with how much work you have at what times. Because I'll have like months where I have too many projects, really, where I can't do all of them and I have to pick which ones are the best. And then I'll have months where I'm like waiting for a good thing. And so what do you do in that time when you're waiting? And so you have to see what are your skills and how can you use them to, pay your rent, or at least that's what I'm up to right now, is trying to figure out how to do that. And so what I've been doing is lots of plaster work and murals for um, you know, event spaces or high-end houses and fancy places here in Chicago. And so this is with a studio in Chicago where I live called Hetrick Studios. And this is for a big house that we worked on, and I was in charge of sculpting these plaster flowers into the walls. And they got noticed by Architecture Digest, which was very exciting. And so I was able to, use that and find more work from there. And then this is my most recent thing that I just finished like last weekend. And this is a mural at a jewelry store on the ceiling. So it's a pretty large, like 25-foot diameter, slightly convex dome above this jewelry store. And so I have to find ways to occupy my time while still doing cool stuff, because that's what my aim is as an artist, is to try to find work while still doing things that I love. And so far, I've been feeling pretty good about it. So hopefully this is, there's some takeaway that you can find exciting opportunities anywhere, and, doing one cool thing will usually lead to another cool thing that you didn't imagine. So hopefully everyone had some good takeaway. This is the end. That's my Instagram over in the corner. It's ethanan.art. My stop motion short is going to be out on YouTube in the coming months. I don't know which one, but I'll post about it whenever I get there. And so then everyone can watch it on YouTube. Right now, it's just, behind a Vimeo blockade that you can't get to unless you have a password. So soon everyone will be able to watch that, and that'll be very exciting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I don't think you were able to see all of the "that's cool" and "amazing, love it" comments that were happening in the YouTube chat. So
Sure wasn't.
yeah, your work is gorgeous. You can see, like you said, it's different mediums, but your style runs through it. So it'll be very exciting to continue to watch your future work. So I hope everybody follows. All of the contacts for people our presenters will be in the description. and you can be sure to follow them and continue to follow their work. And I failed to mention that a guest from elsewhere was also our #1 winner for stop motion in our 2025 awards in October. So we're excited about that. And yeah, if you have projects like these in the works, this is exactly the type of work that we want to see in our film festival and showcase all of the talent that you have that doesn't normally get recognized. So thanks, Ethan. That was really great. And next up we have Kelsey.
Howdy ho. All right, give me 1 second here. Yeah, so I'm Kelsey Panetta. I have been doing special effects makeup for way too long at this point. And I originally started actually by getting my esthetician's license. I thought that that was gonna be the route to go. And it's been helpful actually in realizing the contraindications behind the work that I do. As you can see, my focus is primarily gore. All of these shots are from just behind the scenes of various student projects I worked on. And it was such a blast. And I love every bit that I've done. Weirdly enough, a lot of throat stuff tends to go on in my work. I'm not sure why that is, but it gets a good gag. It's really good. So yeah, all of them are from student films I've been around. One of them's been from an episodic series I did. And that I think you can still find on YouTube. It's called, oh gosh, of course I'm blanking on the name now. It's quite literally called Student Film. So yeah, and they're actually submitting the first round of that to a bunch of film festivals here. So hoping that that'll go out soon-ish. We'll see. And of course, it's not letting me. There we go. This is same thing, another piece that I've worked on for a different film I was doing. This was my first time fabricating anything on this scale. I had to make sure that it was waterproof. And trying to make foam waterproof is a weird challenge that I never thought I'd have to face. Luckily enough, I was able to get in touch with Creature Kid here in Colorado, and I'll talk more about my experience on that later. But I was able to sculpt all this, paint it by hand, that kind of thing. I think I ended up sealing it with liquid latex, which was also a very strange experience, but that made it to where it wouldn't just disintegrate in this water, and also made it to where it was safe for the environment. A lot of the work I like to do, I want to make sure it is safe for whatever environment it's going into. It's not going to create a bunch of chemicals in the world. There's already enough pollution. Don't want to bring more of the work I do. So yeah, that was this piece. Moving on from that, these are just some shots from my thesis film. A lot of prop work, a lot of costuming. I was the head production designer on that one, and it took us about a year to make it. Yeah, this film was also incredible. It is a lovely sci-fi Western, which you don't see too often, I feel like. Very John Wick inspired. I think you can still find it out there as well. It's called The Ballad of Thatch Thornton. It's been submitted to a number of film festivals at this point, and I think it did actually win an award finally for best cinematography recently. So that was fantastic. But yeah, I went into a lot of it. A lot of it was handmade by me or altered in some way. Like the eyepiece on the far left, that was hand sculpted by me and hand altered and everything. Same thing with the gun socks. It's a fun experience in discovering the huge importance of gun safety and prop safety for prop weapons. Yeah, I didn't realize how important that was until we started making this, and it was both fun and terrifying with the amount of red tape around it and the amount of permits that you need in order to get any of this filmed. Moving on from that, I'm also started out doing a lot of haunt makeup. So while I was also in school, I was doing haunt work, and I worked at a number of haunted houses in the local area. So I've worked for City of the Dead, 13 Floors, Tear in the Corn. I do believe Tearing the Corn currently is the top rated haunted house in Colorado. So I've done a lot of work with them. This is actually how I learned how to airbrush. So I do a lot of airbrushing in my work as well. And it's a great way to start out if you're trying to be a makeup artist, honestly. I didn't think it would be for me. And by the end of it, I was just in love. It was fantastic. But yeah, I've done anything from the airbrushing to full face prosthetics. Again, a lot of it is just gory. Yeah, no, that was a really interesting time. And I love every I worked with. Honestly, I would love to go back as well. It's just kind of tough with my current work schedule. um, but yeah, some more stuff from, I think that was actually 13 floors, just practice work, that kind of thing. Moving on to Creature Kid. Yeah, I worked with him for a while as well. Again, that was a very, very happy accident in I needed that head to not sink and disintegrate in water. And luckily enough, someone I knew happened to know Creature Kid. So reached out to him, and happily enough, he was just looking for interns. So I interned with him for about 4 months there. I learned an insane amount. I actually worked on some of the zombies in Onyx the Fortuitous, his film. I am terrible because I don't remember the name of the film at all, but I worked with him on that. I've also worked on a couple pieces for Meat Canyon, which is a wild experience and I kind of forget about sometimes. But yeah, he was kind of the guy that taught me about mold making and the process of foam latex and stuff like that. So that was really cool and a lot of fun. And he's an amazing artist here in Colorado. I still work with him every now and then, at least in terms of what to do for how I charge my own stuff. He's helped me out with that a lot. And then I guess kind of just as Ethan said, stuff to pay the bills. Currently, I am working at Casa Bonita. I joined there about a year ago. It is a very strange place. For those that may not know what Casa Bonita is, it is a massive Mexican restaurant that has cliff diving and actors, and it's basically a mini theme park in the middle of a shopping mall. It is a very weird place to work, but that's where I currently work. I not only help out with the theater a lot, but I've also helped with like working on the gorilla Moko, his hands, because they've been kind of falling apart as recent days. So we've been working on switching them over to silicone from latex and that kind of thing. So I kind of do a lot of that there with the silicone work, and I help build out the puppets sometimes whenever I get a chance to. On top of working at Casa Bonita, I also am a part of a shadow cast for Rocky Horror here in Colorado called Colorado's Loose Ingredient. I've been the props and costumes manager for about, 2 years now. So yeah, I've been doing all that. I manage all the costume pieces and the props for a cast of about 30 people. And it's a weird experience. We put the movie on the background and we act it out in front. So we do that about once a month as well. So that's kind of the other thing I use to fill my time. And last but not least, my current and most favorite project that I'm working on is what I call my face bras. They're exactly what they sound like. They're just faces put onto bras. And they're really just disgusting and weird. And I've had to like actually develop a number of ways in order to make them. So start out with mold making and doing that kind of thing. And then I moved on to airbrushing with liquid latex, which is not a common thing. I've begun to realize people don't airbrush with liquid latex. So yeah, I've learned how to do that and I've fine-tuned it. It absolutely destroys your airbrushes if you use it. So that's kind of the main one I've been working on. I've been trying to get that out there, really start up my business. I also make flesh heels, so bits of skin and teeth kind of stitched together and that kind of thing. My coworkers love to refer to me as Edgeen. That is their newest nickname at this point. But yeah, so that's kind of all of that. And stop sharing here. But yeah, as for anyone trying to get into this business, all I can say is just start doing a bunch of random things and seeing what sticks. That's what I've done pretty much my entire life. And I can't imagine doing anything else. I also helps to be a jack of all trades. So just try things and see what happens. Reach out to people. You'd be surprised by how many people are willing to help out and support and get you going where you need to go. So yeah. Sorry, that was a little under time there.
Well, thank you so much. That is awesome. I had the pleasure of visiting Casa Bonita earlier this year. One of my best friends lives in Denver, and everything is hyped up to be absolutely magical. So I wish I had known you were there then. You might have been there when I was there, but I'm sure I'll be back. It was very cool, like pulling into the shopping parking lot. You're like, what? It's so awesome. But anyway, your work is amazing and super talented and creative, and that we love all of that. Like, we have a gore makeup category. If this is the sort of thing you're into and you make things like this for film, TV, or games, submit it. We want to see it. And last but not least, we have Josh Turi with well, I'll let you tell him tell you. Go for it.
Dear, I don't know why I'm here. You guys called me. I'm just chilling. No.
You're up for the next 15 to 20 minutes. So go.
Well, thanks for having me. My name is Josh, and I am a prosthetic designer and special effects makeup artist. I've been doing this 35 years. I'm one of the old guys. I was on set in the late 80s, and we went and just kept going. But I'm doing this for a long time because of the love I have for this weird art that we do. And it is a weird art, but that's what's so cool about it. It's weird and it's interesting and it's off kilter. And I love the fact that there's still people out there interested in it, that are coming up, and the younger people are still into it, because it's just such a source of pride with us. So I just love to see that it's still out there, it's still active, it's changing, it's changing a lot. But that's good, things need to evolve, I came from the world of mortician's wax and cotton and latex and tissue paper and oatmeal. And I'm now, digitally scanning and printing and doing all that. So it's a very interesting climb that we've done. But anyway, I was always a monster kid. I was one of those little kids that was always into monster movies and putting models together. And I loved characters. I always joke, I say, everything that got me beat up in elementary school is really cool now. I was a monster kid, a comic book kid, all that stuff. And all that stuff's really cool now. But when I was a kid, we had something called the 4:30 movie. I grew up in New Jersey. I'm still here. On Channel 7, we had the 4:30 movie every day. We only had 3 channels, guys. So the 4:30 movie was exactly that. It was a movie every day, but they would do theme weeks. So every now and then they would do Monster Week. And I can remember every day watching Godzilla and Gamera and King Kong and Frankenstein and Bubba, whatever, and all these monster films throughout the week. And that was just I was so glued to it. And then I saw the first Star Wars in the theater in, what was that, 77? So I was 7 years old. I was 6 or 7 years old. And to this day, I remember seeing the cantina sequence and going, look at all these monsters and alien, look, what? And it was a fascination that just always bit into me. So we go a little forward, and when I was about 9 years old, I was lucky enough. My mother was a caterer, and a friend of hers was working on a film, and they said, "Hey, we need somebody to come out and feed a crew. You want to come out?" So my mother said, "Yeah." So I ended up going to set with her one night, and I saw this makeup artist working. He was putting cuts on people's faces, and I was fascinated. I sat there and I watched this man work. And he thought I was an extra. And he goes, "Get in the chair, kid." I was like, "All right." And I sat in the chair and he put a latex cut on my cheek. And you know what's stupid? Is I should have grabbed it. It's on one of my shelves back there. I still have it. That thing is from, I was 9, so that was 80. That was 79 or 80. He put this cut on my cheek. The director thought it was cool and they made me lay in a pile and I was a dead body for 20 minutes. But I was 9 years old. So that was my first introduction to it being makeup and knowing the term makeup. And from that point forward, I went to a local costume shop and I bought a little 5-color makeup palette with a book and painted my face blue. And, thank God I had an older brother who let me put all sorts of weird colors on his face and stuff like that. And that started my love of makeup. And I just started going to the library and looking up that word. I started getting books and finding magazines. And then when I found things like Fangoria magazine and Famous Monsters, these are the things that started opening my eyes to worlds. There was no zooming in on pictures back then. So I was that kid that looking through Fangoria would see, they would show a picture of somebody's shop and I had magnifying glasses trying to see what was on their workbench, trying to see what that spray can was. So if I could figure out what he had on his bench, well, then I should have that. So, and that's how I just progressed and I progressed and I learned and again started finding books and I would go look up the word makeup and it was just that's how I got rolling in it. And then eventually, like I said, and then I started, my first life cast I ever did was on my older brother, locked his eyebrows in it, took a beating for that one, but what are you going to do? I think I was 14. I didn't read ahead enough about the Vaseline and the eyebrows. Um, but for me, it was just practice, reading about it, learning about it, and doing it, and doing it, and doing it. I'm not a natural born artist in any way, shape, or form. There's a million people that are insanely better than me, but I also look, there's a million people that are worse than me. It's just, people always say, "Oh, it's great. You must have a lot of fun being an artist." And I say, I don't kind of look at that. I look at myself as a tradesman that happens to work in art. That's just the way I look at it. I'm a craftsperson or I'm a tradesman. If other people want to say I'm an artist, fine, but I don't refer to me as that. I just say I'm a tradesman that I happen to work in art. But so better and better and better and better and got better in practice. And what I did was, I found out that film school students had to do thesis films. So everybody that was in film school had to do a thesis film and they needed stuff. So I went, oh. So I didn't even have a driver's license yet. I had my mom drive me around Manhattan and I made homemade little business cards that said J Turi effects, makeup effects, blah, blah. And I went to NYU and pinned it to their corkboard. Went to the School of Visual Arts, pinned it. And I went to Columbia, NYU, Bubba, and I just went through New York. And again, there was no internet or anything. So I pinned my business card to every notice board. And I started getting calls from seniors. "Hey, we got to kill a guy for my film. You want to do it?" "Sure." And, you weren't getting paid. There was no money, but they would throw you $50 or something, enough that I could go buy a bottle of latex, or I could buy a bottle of paint, or I could buy a bottle of that. So with each student film I did, I was able to buy another material. And then that's where I learned. I learned that was the first time I did a makeup and put it in front of a camera and realized how bad my makeup was, because that was the first time I saw it on film. But that taught me. So every time I screwed up a makeup, it taught me, it taught me, it taught, and I just went and I became like the king of student films for a while. And I loved it, man. I just, I cut my teeth on it up until the point that I did a student film probably 20 years ago again. I was like, I got a call and I'm like, whatever, let's do it. It's just because we love what we do. So from there, I ended up just working, building a little bit of a portfolio, and I found the name of this shop owner in Brooklyn, and I sent him my portfolio, which was garbage at the time. I mean, it truly was, but it was good enough that he offered me an internship. And I called that internship my college. I went to college for 2 years for him, and I worked for free. He threw buckets of UltraCal at my head. I had, the older guys kicking me in the ass, things like that. But I learned. I swept the floor and I scrubbed plaster buckets for 2 years, and that was college. Because as I was scraping plaster buckets and taking lunch orders, I was hanging out with the mold makers. I was hanging out with the sculptors. I was hanging out with those guys, hanging out with them and learning and learning. And then the day comes and my boss comes down and goes, "Hey, we got to make a gallon of blood. Go make a gallon of blood." And I went, "Oh, okay. Do you have the formula?" He's like, "What? No formula. You prick your finger, you match the color, go make the blood." And I'm like, "Okay." So there I am, an hour later, all of my fingers bleeding. I'm covered in blood, trying to mix colors, this and that. And him and the other shop foreman come out laughing their asses off, and they throw the formula on the table and they go, "Welcome to the shop." And so that was kind of my initiation. And as I'm sitting there now bleeding from both hands and this and that. So then from there, they let me make a mold. And then they let me run foam latex one day, and they let me, and they bum bum bum, to eventually I ended up being that guy's right hand man and being his shop supervisor, sculpting, molding, and running appliances for him. That man was, I mean, his name was Tim Considine. He died a few years ago. He was a really cool artist. We did all these trauma movies together, and if you don't know what trauma is, we did Toxic Avenger 3, Toxic Avenger 4, Class of Nukem High 2, Sergeant Kabuki Man, Death by Temptation, all these really over the top, low budget gore fests. And I just went and I built and I built and I built and I didn't sleep. And I slept in my truck trying to go from one job to the other. And I just ran and ran. And that's the secret to this business is the second you slow down, there's 50 people behind you trying to take your job. So you need to work longer, faster, harder, and better than everybody else. It's just the only way to do it. So I was working, building a portfolio. I'm now 10, 12 years into doing this. I get a phone call from NBC one day that they got my card from a supply house and they want to interview me for a Saturday Night Live. And I had been doing movies and I had been doing TV. I wasn't union. And I went in and interviewed for SNL, and that was 99. And I interviewed for SNL and I got the job, and I was there 15 years. My first year, I was just there one day a week doing my thing. By the end of the first year, the shop supervisor had quit to move on. So they offered me the job. So for the next 15 years, I was the shop supervisor and key makeup under the department head. But from that, you network and you go and you do this and you do that, and boof. And Saturday Night Live was professionally one of the best experiences ever. I always tell people, you can't really judge yourself as a makeup artist until you're trying to put a prosthetic or eyeliner on running at full speed down a hallway. It's just, there's nothing to compare it to it. So within all those years, I was still doing other movies because I knew that I couldn't stop. I couldn't just go, okay, I have a job now, so I'm just going to hang back. I couldn't. So I got a job with another morning show at because they had these comedians that would do all these characters. So eventually, I'm leaving my house at 2 a.m. to do this morning show. At 9 o'clock, I wrap. I take an hour nap, and I go to NBC to be there at 11 a.m. I was working 2 a.m. to midnight almost every night during the week, taking an hour, going back to work, taking an hour, going back to work. And I did that for a few years until my wife finally said, "You look like shit. You sound horrible. Why don't we quit?" I said, "Yeah, you're right." But it was a good thing I did that because two of the producers from that morning show went on to another show and offered me that. And this is how that works. And this is what I meant by you work harder, longer, and better than everyone else. And that's how you achieve. Like I said, I'm doing this 35 years and I'm still out-houring younger people just because I go. And now that I'm thinking about it, the most important piece of advice I can give anybody that's looking to come into the business and is watching this right now is treat every single job you do as an interview for the next job. So just because you're on set, that's your interview for the next job, because those producers and that crew and everybody are going on to the next job. And they go, hey, we just worked, with Kelsey. We just worked with Ethan. These guys are great. Let's bring them in. So that's how, and I've always looked at it like that. No matter what job I'm on, that's my interview for a next job. And remember, the crew is the first one to see your makeup. The crew is the first one to see your effect. So make sure they see it good, because they're the ones that are going to be going on to the next job. They're going to be your best word of mouth ever. I've gotten recommended for jobs from Grips because they were like, you got to see, so that's what I'm saying. If you're building something, don't ever say in your head, it's good enough. No, keep building that thing. Keep building it to make sure everybody on set sees something cool. And even if they told you we're never going to do a close-up of that thing you're building, build it so they can do a close-up, because then they will. And they'll show it. And then you'll get more coverage, more this, everything, right? So then let's go back to this. So SNL, I'm having a good time. We're doing that. I'm not sleeping, blah, blah, blah. So then comes the day, blah, blah, blah. I got offered the show Daredevil for Marvel. So I did season 1 of Daredevil while I was doing SNL. And eventually I went, okay, I think it's time. I was at SNL 15 years and I went, you know what? Am I really going to be the guy to walk away from a full-time job and take this shot? But you have to, because if you get to the point that you're just going to sit back and do that, that's fine and you'll do okay, but you're never going to achieve to where you want. Because I'm not a sit down kind of guy. I keep going. I'm sure you haven't noticed by this talk, I have a little bit of energy. So once I got Daredevil, then I left SNL. And then for the next 6 years, I was with Marvel. We did all the seasons of Daredevil, all of the Punisher, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and the Defenders. So we did all of those. And then just within all those shows, you network, and then we're doing that, and we just kept working, and here we are. We're working to do a couple of movies a year, and just keep going, and you just keep working. Marvel was a trip. I will say this: film. The differences from film to TV to theater are extreme. Even though we're doing makeups for all of them, the differences in design, execution, and application and fabrication are completely different. I also do a lot of theater. Right now, I build the prosthetics for Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, Death Becomes Her, the new Phantom of the Opera that's on Broadway, Lion King, Grey House, a bunch of Broadway shows. So being able to bring Broadway in is a lot of fun. But again, totally different. So a makeup that I build for TV or for episodic is going to be slightly different than a makeup that I'm building for film. How? Well, usually for episodic, I have 7 days to build an episode. But within that 7 days that we're getting ready to shoot an episode, we're shooting another episode. So every 7 days, we're shooting an episode. Shooting. But in the time that we're shooting that episode, we're building the next episode and reading the script for another episode. So that's how it churns. So I've only got those 7 to 8 days to churn this stuff out. So TV, you have to learn where to cut a corner, when not to cut a corner, and how to design things for speed, for application, and to not limit what the final look is. Film, we usually have a little more pre-pro time. Like we just did, I'll give you a film that I did years ago, a few years ago called Jules. I'll show you the picture of my little alien in a minute. Like we had 4 months pre-production for that to sculpt and build everything. But that's where film is different. That's why film, we can sculpt a little longer, a little more intricate, a little more detailed, a little more this, because we know we have that time. TV, we're like, just cut it there, mold it, mold that thing, let's go. You know what I'm saying? So there's a lot of like, and theater is totally different. So most of the time with theater, you're building prosthetics to be used multiple times. So these pieces, except for the new Phantom of the Opera, which is called Masquerade, because it's an immersive experience and people are walking through it, they're this close to the Phantom, they're in the scenes, like the audience is in the scenes. We had to use encapsulated prosthetics. So the Phantoms have new prosthetics every day. So it's just a regular piece. So we're doing 50 prosthetics a week for that show that we're just churning out. But usually for like Harry Potter and all the other shows, we put that on. Like Harry Potter, the Voldemort mask that we build is a pullover mask, and they use 8 a month. Okay, so there's 8 shows a week, so they make those 8 last the month. Death Becomes Her, there's a twisted neck appliance that we do for that. That twisted neck sometimes goes 4 or 5 months with using it. It's built to do that. So theater's an even different experience where it's like those prosthetics are used over and over, and we still sculpt the way we would sculpt, but like the pore texture, anatomy, and things that I sculpt for theater are different than film. Film's going to do a close-up. For theater, I need somebody in the top row of the balcony to be able to see it, so it's bigger, it's bolder. It's when I paint a vein, for film, we're doing hair strokes for that. For theater, I'm using a 1-inch brush, and I'm painting a vein because it needs to be seen by the guy in the back row. However, we also have a lot of tricky things that theater does with lighting. So if you ever saw something that we painted for like the Voldemort mask that we paint, you'd be like, why is there orange on that thing? And why does it look like there's polka dots? Well, it's because of the lights they're using on stage. And when you see it, it looks like Voldemort. So those are the things you got to like. So film to episodic to theater are all very different, very different. But that's the fun. That's the challenge. That's that's where learning your craft is not just about makeup. Learning your craft is about learning your materials. What can that material do? What can latex do? What can silicone do? What can epoxy do? Do I really need to go that technical with this? Or can I get a roll of duct tape, some Twizzlers, and some cotton, and we'll make that work? That's the real talent in this business, is knowing your materials, knowing what they can do and what you can produce with those materials. And to make your life easy. You're the one that hopefully is going to be applying this stuff on set. So don't make something so bad that you're just going to kill yourself and it's not going to work. And also, when you're designing a makeup and when you're getting ready to build it, remember, there's a person under there. There's going to be this actor under there that they have to do a full day of work when you're done gluing stuff to them. So try not to design an 8-hour makeup. I mean, if it's unavoidable, it's unavoidable. But like, I'll show you the picture of the alien. She's got 11 prosthetics on her. We got that down to 3 hours because we knew she still had a 12-hour day ahead of her. I can show you a little, where is it? I'll do a share. I just learned how to do this because, I'm all cool and stuff. Hold on a second here. You're going to have to give me a second. I'm that guy. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, so if I click on this, right? And then I come back to you and hit share. And then I go like that and I hit share. Can you guys see it? Yeah. So this is from the movie Jules. Obviously, we were shooting this during the pandemic because I have my mask on. But that makeup is torso appliances, back appliances, hand appliances, a cowl, neck, and face, and top of the feet pieces. So that makeup was designed that, sure, we could have built a suit and it would have not really worked. So I decided to do it in pieces. But we could have designed more pieces, but then that would have been a 7-hour makeup, and then we don't have any time to shoot. Plus, we also got to think about removal. So we got the removal down to an hour. Plus, you also have to think about, how is my actor going to go to the bathroom in this makeup? How is my actor going to eat in this makeup? All of those design points are what guide you to that finished look. And every makeup you design, you do is going to be different. Even if it's the same makeup you've done, if you did a zombie 52 times, they're all going to be different. That makeup, because you're going to design that different for that situation. This is the way this one is shooting, so we built it like this. This is how this one is shooting, so we built it like that. And the other piece of advice I can give you, if you're trying to become a makeup artist or a prosthetic makeup artist, is don't get precious about your creation. And here's what I'm going to tell you. The biggest mistake and I did it too when I was younger. It's like I build this thing that I'm like, oh, you gotta, and then, because a lot of times when you get to set, they're going to be like, cool, shoot it once and we're gone. And you're like, realize they're hiring you. You're a hired gun. You're there to facilitate them. Your job is to make what the writer and director want to see in front of that camera and guide them. If they say, well, we want this orange thing, you say, well, understand, but sometimes orange, if it's monotone, blah, 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 this is what it'll do to your lens flare. This is what lights do. Okay. And then they'll say, oh, that's a good call. So make it orange and blue. And even if you don't want to paint it blue, sorry, you're getting paid to paint it blue, you paint it blue. That's your job. But you're also there, like I said, to guide them and say, I like that idea, but here's how I think it'll work better. There's a lot of stuff that we do that, that's the way they want it to look. Okay, cool. But you still have fun building it, because that's your job. It's a good time. But what I mean by also don't get precious is, I have an entire storage unit full of stuff that we spent months building that never got filmed. It's just what happens. There's stuff from The Punisher that never saw the light of day just because we ran out of time during the day. I have bodies that were supposed to be shot on camera and we just ran out of time, and they were like, forget it. And you lose it. So you see, and so you could either go, this sucks, or you go, what are you gonna do? Check cleared, going home, but that's the fun about this business is, I find for me, the best part that wakes me up every day is that creation. I love to create. I love to make. I love to build. But I love being around creative people. I'm a collaborator kind of guy. I love being in a room of artists. They're artists. I love being in a room with them and going, hey, what do you think? If we do this, what if we take that, put it in here and do that? And we go, oh yeah, that's cool. Let's try that, And when all of your hive mind starts working, it's just the best day. It really is, man. It's just so much fun. And that's what I love about it. And that's why I'm still doing it. And that's why I still sound grovelly, because I'm going 18 hours a day, but that's what I love. Maybe I'll try to show a couple of pictures. What do you think? Think I should? I hope this works. Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. Can I shuffle through them? So okay, so this is from a show called Happy. This was the character of Smoothie. So he obviously is a human Ken doll. This is a full silicone appliance, and it's hard to see, but there's a little tube sticking out of the bottom. In the story, that's how Smoothie goes to the bathroom. All right. What do we got here? Okay, this is the Faceless from a show called Falling Waters. This is actually a full silicone pullover. So what you can't see is in the left eye, we actually have a hole in the left eye so the stunt performer can see that visual effects just colored over later on. Because these guys had to do different actions, so we couldn't totally blind them. They had to have a little bit of sight. All right. These are lab rats we did for a show called Dr. Dept. So each one of these rats had to be, well, a couple of them had to be cut open on camera and their trachea removed and then sewn up on camera. So these are silicone that we underpainted and then flocked and punched the whiskers. As Brian Cox as a as a demon from a movie called The Parenting. That's actually it's on HBO Max right now. There he is again. That's the demon arm from the same movie. The fingers that you see there, we built mechanical extensions. So as the performer's hand curled, the actual finger extensions would curl as well. So he could make a complete fist with the whole arm. And those fingers were super long. Like you can see how much longer they are on them. Let's see. That was nothing. Oh, that's me with my little. So in the movie, The Parenting, it's an Evil Dead moment. This little Pomeranian gets possessed by a demon and they wanted it to attack. So we built a demon Pomeranian puppet that I got to actually perform. And I had to like attack and bite Lisa Kudrow. That's just me. Okay. Ghost from a movie, more faceless. Oh, this is weird. This is from a movie called The Front Room that we did a couple years ago, a small independent movie, but this is a flesh chair. The director came to me and said, "We need a flesh chair." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about. What is a flesh chair?" So we started designing, and this is sort of where we came up with. Now, what you don't see is above the breast, there's a hole that we cut into that eventually. And a stunt performer puts their face through and like grows out of the chair. So a lot of times it's not just makeup you're doing. Sometimes you're building flesh chairs. All right, let's see what else we got. That's a melted face. That's a silicone head. That's from Iron Fist. So that is when he first gets the powers. So that is actually a transfer of the dragon symbol that gets burned into his chest. That's from Punisher. That's Jigsaw's face. So he has multiple scars. These are a combination of transfer appliances, which are small little appliances made out of Prozade, and a couple of silicone pieces. Burnt back of the head. A full pig we built for a movie called Devil All the Time down in Virginia. Demon dog. That's me working on the Punisher. So there's John Bernthal and so we got the Punisher and Jigsaw. That's the night, that's the finale of the show. That's the night they killed each other. Rats. Oh, this is an android that we did for a show. Ghost. Oh, so that's me doing a spinal operation on the character of Bullseye from Daredevil. So we had to do we removed his spine. That's me looking quite happy at work, as you can tell. You know, pig dead. Oh, we did a pilot for Channel 11, whatever, called Brides. It was the Brides of Frankenstein, but it was weird. It was like not Frankenstein, Dracula. I mean, it was like Dracula met Sex in the City. And it just didn't work, but we had fun working on it. It was a good time. That again, demon arm, trying to see if there's anything. That's the face. Oh, this is a fully skinned guy from the show Happy. So this is a full silicone suit with then facial appliances to boot. So that was all sculpted on the body cast of him. Happy. I don't think there's anything else in there that you want to see. Oh, this is cool. I'll share that too. I don't know if you can you see that? Is that still sharing? So this is a full body we built for the show Dr. Death for one of the characters, and they get totally emaciated. And if you see this line right here on camera, that can open up and we remove the trachea out of the chest. It was kind of fun. I don't know. That's just some silly stuff. Figured I'd show you some stuff. Yeah, man. The best part about what we do, how do I make this bigger again? I'm like, there we go. The best part about what we do is, like I said, on a daily basis, we get to work with creative people. We get to create and just meet fun people. And I love it. I love it. And it's not easy. Like I said, it's 18, 20-hour days, some days, but It's just, you just go, you go right now. I'll give you a little about that. So we just, last year we did a show called The Terror that's coming out on AMC next year. We built all these devils and things like that that are cool for it. I'm working on a show right now called Recap, where, oh, I got to show you a picture from Recap really quick. Hold on a second. We built this really cool scarecrow. Hold on one second. It's really cool, but it's not out yet, so shh, don't tell anybody. Where is it? Oh my God, I can't find it. There it is. Yeah, you can't tell anybody about this, so you guys shut up. Hold on a second. Share, and then I'll do that. So there it is. So we built this like really cool little scarecrow that we just did for it, but you find out halfway through the show that in the eye here, which we 3D printed this symbol, there's a camera behind it, and the scarecrow is watching everybody, and it's kind of cool and creepy and fun. So we're doing that. We got some Broadway stuff going on and whatever else. We just finished a show called Furious, about, it's a true story about a woman who's killed like three of her husbands. So we just did that. That'll be coming out next year, and all sorts of stuff like that. But like I said, I just really, I I have nothing but positive things to say for anybody that's trying to get into this and do this. Do it. Do it. It's very satisfying, but it's also, it's going to kick your ass, and it's going to upset you, and it's going to hurt your feelings, and you're going to screw stuff up, and you're going to succeed, and you're going to do all of that. And that's what this is going to be. It's going to be ups and downs and moving. But everybody always says to me, well, how'd you get in? How'd you get in? I don't know. I wish I could tell you, if you stood on your head, sacrificed a goat, and ate a coconut, you're in the business. But it just doesn't work like that. It's really just hitting the ground, running, going, meet people, working your ass off, and like that. And I just, sorry I'm cursing, but that's really the best advice I can give you is, like I said before, every job is your interview for the next job. And I would always rather hire a person who has an amazing work ethic, shows up early, is easy to be around, and is a pleasure to work with, that has a mediocre talent, than the world's most talented asshole. And that's just how this business works. I know people that are the most talented people in the world that don't get any work because they're horrendous to work with. I know people that have all the jobs in the world and they're not that good, but they have a great ethic. They're great to work with. The crew loves them. So that's where you have to play that field. People don't want, to work around somebody who's difficult. People want you to be, and you want to be part of the team. Look, the other day on set, you're not just a makeup person. You're there on set and we're working, and the producers will come over to me and say, look, this is the shot we want to do. What do you think? And I go, that's cool. But if you did this, and if you put the camera there, blah, 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 and they'll go, oh, cool. And then they try that. So, but that doesn't happen on every set. Like, you have to, because a lot of times directors don't want to talk to you, but sometimes it does. So you can be as creative and as involved as you want, or you can sit in the back and sulk and be that guy too, But yeah, that's where we're at,
All right.
Is that
Thank you,
enough?
Josh.
Did I talk long enough?
It was perfect. And all of those projects are amazing. I mean, when I met you, so shout out to New Jersey Film Expo. They had the
Yeah, that was
first one
fun.
last year. And that's
That was
where I
fun.
met Josh. And he was the inspiration for this webinar, because I met him I purposefully, intentionally made a lap around the event when I first got there, and then said, I'm coming back at the end of the day. And Josh was still standing, still going, still talking,
man. I had no voice
while
by the
everyone
end of
else
that
was
day,
setting
man.
up and trying to go home.
Yeah.
So, and I said, you know what? I think I want him to be in the next webinar. So,
and I'm glad I'm here. This was awesome.
Yeah,
Plus,
it
I got
finally
to meet all
happened.
these other cool people, Colorado and Chicago. This is awesome, man.
Yes, Ethan and Kelsey, amazing work too. And this is all of what the Art of Movie Making Film Festival is about. It's about the craft that we are the only film festival, kind of like Josh is talking about. You can submit a crap film. We just want to see your art. So if you've been working on projects that aren't going anywhere, or you're working on projects and they haven't submitted to film festivals, you can submit your work to us in however it came. We're evaluating your work, not the film and the directors and producers. So thank you again for being here. Josh, where can people get in touch with you?
I guess, okay, so Instagram is just Josh Turi Makeup. And there's like a portfolio, my online portfolio is designs to deceive .myportfolio.com. So can you put that up or whatever?
Yep.
And then message me. It's Instagram, and then you can message me through there, or my email is josh@designstodeceive.com.
Awesome.
And like I said, I'm always available. If anybody has a question, shoot me a question. I answer everybody. I get a lot of questions because I do a lot of talks in schools and stuff like that. And please send me, if anybody's listening and has a question, shoot me a question, man. I'll answer it.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get to questions in a second. Kelsey, I didn't give you a chance to say where people can get in touch with you.
Yeah. Similarly, sorry, one second. Instagram is probably gonna be the best one. It's gonna be K_bones_effects. Otherwise, you can probably find me at most places, Instagram, Facebook wise. I'm just kind of around.
Awesome. All right, well, let's get into the questions. We have less than 20 minutes left. So Aldea, questions from the YouTube live chat.
Hello. Let's see. So the first one is, you guys all had so many cool projects. Did you have any projects that you wish you had gotten to work on, but you weren't chosen for?
Oh,
And we'll start with Josh, and then Ethan, and then Kelsey.
that's a cool question. You're gonna laugh, but they just finished shooting the prequel series to Friday the 13th. It's called Crystal Lake, and I've always been a huge Friday the 13th guy. As a matter of fact, it's shot right here in Jersey. When I was a kid, my uncle did the music, blah blah blah, and I was like, oh man. So I sent the book out to that, and I knew the producer, and we talked, but the other producer had somebody else in mind for it, and I was like, it's cool, and that was something that would have been like, that would have been fun to do that makeup on a little Jason or something. That would have been fun. But then I heard all the stories that it was all nights in the most humid summer we had, and this and that. So I was good. I'm good. Not working on it. I'm fine. But to be honest with you, you get projects, you don't get projects. The amount of projects you don't get sometimes outweighs the projects you get. So sometimes you don't get to think about that, but that would have been one to be fun. But you know what? But I didn't get that one, but I ended up on this other cool one building a cool scarecrow. So what are you gonna do?
I don't know what was like I don't know if I have like one project that's like that was the one that I really needed. I kind of go into whenever I'm like interviewing for a project, I don't usually think I'm gonna get it, so I don't have too much
Great way to think about it.
about it. Just because there's so many things that are always happening that like if you don't get one project, it means you're gonna be available for whatever the next project is that, you know, comes by. And so that's kind of the perspective I have. But something that's hard is sometimes there's multiple projects that you would like to be on, and they're like have the exact same production schedule, or so they say. Sometimes things get moved around, but it's annoying when it's like, oh, these would be two great things that I would love to work on, and they're filming the same like 2 months of the year, and then you have to make a choice, and that's what I'm dealing with right now. I'm trying to like schedule the next 6 months of my life right now, and I have to see if how many things that I can work in. And so, that can be a challenge.
Yeah, I'd say I'm in a similar boat where I don't really try to think of the what ifs with a project. It's more of a we're gonna see what happens kind of thing. But for me personally, there is a film that I really wanted to work on. I just didn't work out scheduling wise, and it made me a little sad, of course, but you know, life moved on. I was able to work on a bunch of other projects in the meantime, so it happens, you know.
You don't get one job, you get another. You know, it's just
Exactly.
you know, and you have a different kind of fun, you know.
Some of some of my favorite projects I like was able to do because I didn't get something else that I wanted.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And so, you know, that's always the hope whenever you don't get something, is to be optimistic that it is good for something that will be coming soon.
I always give the corny answer when they always say like, "Oh, what's your favorite project?" I'm like, "The next one." I'm like, you know, the next one is my favorite project, you know.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you guys so much. A question that just came in. Do you guys have any tips on making realistic wounds on a budget?
Yeah. Yeah. See, a lot of I'm sorry, guys, if you guys want to go ahead. No? Okay. So wounds are going to be one of those things that are like the bread and butter. Okay. So bullet holes, wounds, scratches, things like that. That's all the stuff that like we just make and pump out. And every job that comes in, I'll go put a bullet hole on this guy, go put a wound on that guy, go put a wound, blah, blah. And you can make, you know, your days and stuff just jumping on set, putting a wound on somebody. So ways to pump out easy wounds. Yeah, materials are gonna cost you what they cost you, you know, and it's just what it is. But the biggest mistake I see young people making is they go, "Well, I just don't have the money. I have to come up with a different way." Well, let's think about that. If you take $100 and you get some clay and you know, you get a, you know, piece of something like piece of fiberglass, piece of not fiberglass, you know, a piece of linoleum or something, and I sculpt wound sheets. So like an 8x10 sheet that has you know, a few cuts, a bullet hole, scratch. So this way you're not wasting that board. You're putting multiples on it, and then make a mold of that. And that mold, sure, maybe cost you another $100. So this is you're spending a couple of dollars. However, by the time you're done, you have a mold that has wounds in it. That mold you now have forever. So that mold you can just continually pump wounds out of. So the next time you get a call for a job that has a wound, well, you have the mold. So you just go pump one out. So you saved the money making a new one. So when people always ask me, well, how do I do it on a budget? I always say, have it, you know? So don't ever talk yourself out of spending $20, because that $20 you spend is going to save you money later on, because you're going to repeatedly have that. You're going to repeat it. Another mistake I see is like people are like, well, I'm just going to buy a prosthetic on the internet for that job because there's just no time. Well, if you make it, you have it, and then you can have it again and have it again, and you don't have to buy it, and you don't have to buy it, and you own it. But if you're literally talking about wounds on a budget, I mean, building them directly on the person is a way to go, using bondos and, you know, waxes and things like that, but they're just not going to last. The same amount of material, the same amount of money you're going to spend buying, you know, like silicone components that you could build on the skin, you can sculpt one and make a quick mold, and make bondo transfers. Bondo transfers are a very simple way to make a wound, and you don't need a shop. You can do them in your kitchen. You could do them in your mom's kitchen. You could do them anywhere, and that's a great way to save money. But my advice is to always make that mold, because then you own it, and then you can continue to charge for that on the next job, the next job, and this is how you start making money. And this is how you start making money. I don't know if that answered your question, but I tried. I just said, don't be afraid, you know, to spend $20, because it'll make you money down the line.
Ethan or Kelsey, did you guys have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I guess he pretty much summed up very nicely. As someone who started out with not a lot of money doing prosthetic work, if you really want to go for the cheap, there are fantastic like gelatin recipes out there to
Oh,
create 3D gelatin effects. Just know that it's going to smell awful and it is not going to be pretty.
yeah.
um, so there are ways to do it on a cheap budget. It's just not going to last. But if you're not worried about longevity, there are plenty of ways to do it. Just looking up a gelatin recipe that
Totally.
smells awful
There's
and
so
will
much
stink
on the
up the
internet
entire
right now. So much.
space.
Yeah.
Um, I don't have that much to add. I don't do that much makeup, but when I was at Kozar Studios, they have like a room that's dedicated to just like flat wound molds
Yeah.
for like the police shows and stuff that they film here in Chicago. And so they're just like the past like 15 years of flat wound molds that they've been making, and we still make new ones for specific things, but then they go in the room and can be, pulled here and there whenever you need something. And so they're just reused over and over until they like die. But like just whole rooms of just like molds for when you need them. And so yeah, I'm with like spending a little bit so you have it for a long time and can reuse.
That's exactly my point. And like what you just said is like we have same thing in my shop. We have our transfer room that is just bins of molds. We just literally did. I got a call for this independent thing. We did the entire film with existing molds. We didn't build a thing. We did the entire film with existing molds. So that's why I'm saying don't confuse yourself with spending a couple of dollars now because you're worried about that. But that money that you spend now will make you money in the long run. It really will. And if you don't want to take the time to sculpt something really quick, I think you can buy, a bullet hole transfer online somewhere, bring it to the shop, lay it on a board, make a mold of it. This way you have it. You know what I'm saying? It's an investment in yourself. So sure, you're not going to make money on this job. As a matter of fact, you might lose $10, but you just put 4 molds on the shelf that you now can charge other jobs for the rest of your life. So that's how you have to look at it. It's spending a little money to make money.
Awesome. Thank you guys for all your answers. We have one last question. Is there any particular person you guys would like to shout out for helping you in your career, or a mentor, or anybody like that?
Well, for me, I'll go to with that story I told at the beginning to this man by the name of Tim Considine. He took a shot on a 16-year-old Josh and let me scrub plaster buckets in his shop for a couple years. So I'll shout out Tim, man. The poor guy passed away a few years ago. He couldn't stop drinking, so that's what got him. But he really got me started. He really got me rolling, and yeah, so I'm gonna shout out to him, but then I'm gonna shout out to every single artist I've ever worked with from that point because I've gotten inspiration from everyone I've ever worked for. Everybody I've ever worked for, I've picked up a tip from, a trick from. I've worked with, people I hire. I go, oh, that's how they just sculpted that wrinkle. That's really interesting, and I've stolen that trick from them. So I'm going to shout out to Tim, but I'm also going to shout out to everybody I've ever been around for just completely inspiring me to get better, especially when I hire somebody that's so damn good and I'm like, son of a bitch, what? And then they inspire me to get better still. So, Tim, that's my boy right there. But like I said, everybody else that has ever inspired me down the line, I don't know if that was corny or not, but I truly mean it.
If I'm gonna shout out like one person, at least for me right now, I'm thinking of he's an animator, director, and filmmaker named Michael Granberry. He's out of Portland right now, and he's been working in stop motion and whatnot for some time. But we've been good friends for a little bit now, and he's been really helping me, start to understand how the industry works when you're in like this kind of niche style of animation that I've been working in. And he has a short film called Le Bet, and it is we're hoping for an Oscar nomination and Oscar win for short film this year for Best Animated Short. So everyone check out that. It's on YouTube now, and Vimeo Top Pick and all those types of things. So big ups, Michael Granberry. Yeah, he rocks.
Only going to interrupt for a second because thank you for that. That is how we connected, was through Michael Granberry, because we were the first ones to show Libet, and it is amazing. And we are totally for it. Let's have it win.
That's
It is
amazing.
amazing. So thank you for that.
That's my guy. That's my guy.
Incredible. Yeah, for me personally, it's a little cheesy, but it's definitely my best friend and roommate, Ari White. The crazy things that they do on a daily basis genuinely inspires me. And they've kind of kept me sane through not only college, but also just all the little things I do on a day-to-day basis. They are such a huge supporter and I love them so much. And I really couldn't imagine doing what I'm doing now without them.
That's awesome. That's
That is
awesome.
awesome. This is a great way to end the webinar. Thank you guys so much, Josh, Ethan, and Kelsey, for being here and sharing all of your knowledge.
Thanks
and
for having us. This was cool, man.
creativity.
This was
Oh,
awesome.
This is
Thank
the best.
you.
We love doing this stuff. Thank you, Aldia, for moderating, and OG. Hey, OG. Oh, he's our events coordinator. He has
Thanks,
his own,
OG.
his
And
own
LG.
project.
Thank you guys
that
for being
is
here. You guys
coming
are
out.
awesome.
Yeah, so thank you everyone. This is amazing. This is what the Art of Movie Making Film Festival is all about. People behind the scenes and their creativity and their contributions that we just don't see or hear enough about. So stay tuned for future webinars and for our announcements of when we will start accepting submissions again. If you know anyone who would want to partner support, let us know. We're always looking for sponsors and other partners to help us keep going. And happy holidays and happy new year to everyone. We're excited for 2026. I guess like and subscribe, help us out with that. Follow us on Instagram, and we will drop everybody else's the presenters information into the description. But we're gonna wrap up right on time here. Thank you everyone who dropped in and stayed. And then if you are watching this, please share. We would like to make sure that everyone sees this great work. And thank you again for everyone coming.